What's good, my people? This is Zano from South Africa, and you're listening to Twimbos.
We ain't got it, bro, fat bro. We ain't got it. Don't spend no money, ain't got no clothes, ain't got no cars, ain't got no hoes. We broke. Ladies and gentlemen,
you're now listening.
1, 2, Twimbos. We ain't got it.
Yes, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Two Broke Twimbos. It's your boy Phil Chan, aka Flint Flows, the big boss, baby, aka Feeds Up P, aka Sexington Glovu, aka Shamari Tengero Drink, and of course DJ Mkarad. We're out here in some fine dining establishments in Randburg. I don't even know how we got in here, but I'm here with a composer, an artist, a vocalist, a producer, an actor, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Just a multifaceted thespian.
Yeah.
None other than Zano. It's Zano, right?
Zano.
Because I kept saying Zano. Like Zano.
Well, all the white people say Zano.
Yeah, you see, I've been colonially conditioned. You see, I need to free my mind. Zano. There we go.
Zano, yeah.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm good.
Feels good to be connected with you, man.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to speak to us broke individuals. I do have a co-host, Dan. Sadly, he cannot be here because I don't have a passport. So what we're hoping to do through the course of these international interviews is to raise the funds so he can finally bribe someone and get the documents he needs.
Or you can just jump the fence, man.
It's a risky. The problem is, like, Dan is very yellow. Like, he's very, very... So you'll stick out like a sore thumb.
Can't even camouflage, yeah?
Nah, people are like, no. That guy, we see him. What's he trying to do right there, man?
No, it's so good. It's so good, my brother.
Yes, sir. So, I don't even know. Where do we start with such an interesting story? Like, I was doing my research. And it was quite interesting indeed, and you broke a bit down. I was at your album launch a few weeks back.
Yeah,
and you broke down some part of your story. But it's quite an inspiring story. So I think let's start there. Let's start where you grew up as a kid and what influenced you to start venturing into music.
So I mean, my story is quite. I think it's not such a unique story per se, but it's a story of a lot of African children, man. And I grew up in a small mining township called Embalenhe. Embalenhe is in the Mpumalanga province.
Okay.
And it's like a very small mining township. It's not as rich as it's supposed to be. Well, except like right now it's a totally different story. There's a lot of developments, but at the time when I was growing up, it was really, a very poor kind of township. Funny though that as kids we never realized that we're poor. I was having this conversation with somebody and I was saying that as kids when we were eating pap and tomato sauce at home, I thought that was the dopest meal ever. Until I grew up and I realized that so I have pap and tomato sauce, someone else eats pasta, with chicken. So I always had this passion for music, but I never thought it would be something that I could pursue as a career, mainly because also where I grew up, you are told that you either a lawyer, a doctor, a policeman, it's that whole I usually call them black careers, and my parents tried to take me towards those, but I was a stubborn kid, man. I was always a stubborn kid, and I just had this passion for music. I didn't know where it would lead me until I finished my matric, and I just decided to take time out and volunteer in a studio back home. I ended up volunteering in the studio for like 4 years before I went to a music school, studied jazz and popular music, majoring in piano and vocals, and graduated in 2008. Before I graduated, I was already working with some of the big names in the industry, the late Lebo Mathosa, DJ Christos, Vinny Da Vinci, the godfathers of house music in South Africa, and I think that, looking at my history and looking at what a lot of African kids are going through as well, you know. I think I'm a living testimony that if you are stubborn about your dreams, you know, then you can make them a reality.
Okay. Well, you've given us the rushed version. Let's delve deeper.
Yeah.
So you spoke about black careers.
Yeah.
I think we all understand that.
Yeah.
So what's that conversation like when people at home are expecting you to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, something quote unquote respectable, and you're like, yo, you know, this music thing, you know, I'm trying to pursue that. How is that taken?
Look, man, I'll tell you a very interesting story. In high school, I think I was doing grade 10, and you know, all along as a child, I wanted to be a surgeon. You know, because it was just instilled in me that, you know, you need to be a doctor to have money. You need to be a doctor, and I purpose in my heart that I want to be a surgeon. Until I saw this documentary on TV, man, and I just saw a lot of blood, man. And it's just, I'm like, I'm not about that life, you know. I'm not about that life. Just seeing people's blood gushing out, and I'm slicing people up. I'm not about that life. But then, you know, the next thing for me was to become a musician, because that's what I've been doing without even realizing it. You know, it's what I would do like effortlessly, you know. And I remember my career guidance teacher in high school, you know, so we were having this conversation and they're asking you, so what do you want to be when you grow up, you know? And people are like, yo, I want to be a chartered accountant. You know, someone raises up their hand like, I want to be a lawyer. Someone raises up their hands and like, yo, I want to be a stockbroker, you know. And I was like, stockbroker, what's that? You know, and I was like, and some people are like, I want to be a policeman, a fireman. Then my turn came, and I said I want to be a musician. Bruh, a pin, it's like you could hear a pin drop, because the whole class went quiet. And the teacher was like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a musician. You know, I want to sing, man. I want to travel the world. I want to see people, and I just want to write songs. I want to produce songs. I just want to do music, you know. And that guy, quite funny, because we're very good friends now, and I always remind him about this. And he said to me, I will die poor, because all musicians die poor. You know, and I mean, we have the late Mahlatini, who was the leader of the Mahlatini and the Modela Queens in South Africa, who died poor, but was probably the biggest African export, you know. I mean, he was famous all over the world, but died poor. So our parents always used to use Mahlatini's story to discourage us from becoming musicians, you know. So it's always been that, man. Even at home, my late mother was the only one who was, well, I think I take my stubborn nature from her, because she was the only person who was like, oh, you want to do music? Okay, cool. If you want to do it, then go study it, and then see where it takes you, you know. But my dad was not having any of that, man. My dad was like, I'm not paying for any music school tuition, you know. And my story is not unique, man. A lot of black kids go through the same thing, you know. But we soldier on.
Okay. So what about back home? Were you involved in like the school choir, the church choir? What were your first
man, I was a terrible singer. Let's just start there. You know? I remember, like, in primary school, I got a beating of my life at the school choir, you know, because like I wanted to sing so bad, man, but I just didn't have the voice, you know. And I was kicked out of school choir twice in primary school. I was kicked out of a church choir once.
Really?
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. It's very funny now, because I mean, I can sing, but like a lot of people don't believe that I never grew up knowing how to sing as much as I do now, you know. But yeah, man, I mean, I was one of those kids who was just taking it casually, though, you know. Like, the whole singing thing was not as serious for me. That's why I could never answer you and say, yo, man, I started singing when I was 5 years old, and, you know, started in church. You know, church came very late for me anyway, you know. So yeah, man, I was kicked out of school choir. I was kicked out of church choir. You know, and funny enough, I started as a rapper.
What?
That's a very funny story, because I couldn't sing.
What is your rapper name?
Exclusive.
Oh, snap. Got the boss and exclusive.
I was exclusive, you know. And I was very young, very, very, very young, you know. And I was like, I want to write something. And that's how, actually, that is my foundation. That was my foundation for songwriting.
Really? Do you still have any of those old raps?
Bruh, None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'm so terrible right now. I'm so terrible.
Come on, exclusive. Spit some bars.
Nah,
the streets want to hear these bars.
I ain't gonna embarrass myself internationally like that. I don't want to end up being a meme in Zim.
So this is very interesting. So I'm trying to figure out. So when did your voice become what it is? Was this before, after your voice broke, or after you started going for lessons?
After my voice broke, and this was like late high school. I think it was like grade 11.
Hey, you're a late bloomer.
Like grade 11, that's when I started to sing. All along, and like it's quite an interesting thing because as much as people know me with the house music scene, and they know me with like the soul and R&B scene right now, I still listen to a lot of hip hop because hip hop was my foundation.
Okay.
I mean, I was the kid that was very heavy on the Wu-Tang Clan, very heavy on like Pharoah Monch.
Okay.
Very heavy on Ghostface. When he was doing solo stuff, very heavy on, your Mos Def, your Talib Kweli, your DJ Honda when he dropped that album with before Khaled made it a very big thing of before Khaled and Drama and who's the other guy, DJ Premier made it a very big thing to have like a compilation of a lot of rappers. So it's as I say, man, it's quite a funny thing because I still hold hip hop and hip hop writers among the best. And whenever I think of checking songwriters, I never go to singers. I always go to hip hop because I feel like especially guys who sing, man. Guys who sing, they write about love, man, the whole day. And like there's so many things, man. We've got fees must fall in South Africa happening right now. There's so much social injustice, and hip hop has always been able to take social injustices, put it in song, make it entertaining.
Okay. Well, right now, who are you checking for? I heard you were humming an AKA song as you came in here.
Yeah. Look, man, I love Keenan's work. I feel like he's a great musician. Right now, I'm hung on BJ the Chicago Kid. Okay. Amazing songwriter, man. The guy's a beast. I'm hung on BJ the Chicago Kid. Who else am I listening to, bro?
Even locally? Are there any local acts that have caught your attention?
Local acts would definitely be, my big brother's Black Coffee. Always groundbreaking, man. Always doing stuff that you don't expect. Black Coffee most definitely. Shekinah. Okay. I feel like she's such a breath of fresh air, man. She just came in the industry and she's just killing it because she's doing her. She's not doing something that is done by a lot of other people. I'm enjoying Vusinova one more time. I'm enjoying Nati. I'm enjoying Busi. I'm enjoying Nesta C. Okay. Nesta Sizzle is on another level, bro. That kid is very special. I'm enjoying MT. I know there's a lot of comparisons between Nesta C and MT, but I'm not about that life. Really? Who's comparing those two? No, like I don't know, bro. But you know how like hip hop heads are. Once somebody comes and then there's another one. Actually, it came from the whole AKA and Casper thing. And then as soon as the two kids came up and they were both on the come up, people were like, they took that AKA and Casper comparison and they shifted it to them,
I think especially with that's just lazy journalists. Because they try to create a narrative where they pit people against each other so they can sell stories and get websites.
Besides it being lazy, it's also people who don't listen to hip-hop. Yeah. People who are not part of the culture of hip-hop. Because whoever's part of the culture will never compare those two. Yeah, I could never compare MT. MT for me has got a very commercial ear, very South African ear. And is killing it. Necessary on the other hand, his ear he's able to drop bars, but at the same time sound commercial. Yeah, but not just sound commercial to essay. Anybody, anywhere in the continent and the world can listen to the boy. That's why for me he's extra special.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay.
Here we are talking about hip hop now.
Well, that's the whole point of Two Broke Twimbos, you know, like our conversations meander and deviate.
Yeah, man.
We've had 3-hour episodes where we, at the end of the episode, we're like, yo, what did we talk about?
Yeah, man. I'm just a sucker for good music. You know, I don't care about genre per se, you know, but I'm just a sucker for good music, and I feel like right now, you know, in South Africa, hip hop is massive. If you go out of Africa, guys are finding ways to take the traditional music and make it pop.
Yeah.
You know, Diamond Platinum's one of those guys. You know, he's killing it out in Tanzania and in the rest of Africa.
Yeah.
Davido, who I thought after signing to Sony Music was going to go quiet, because I mean he had been quiet for like 9 months. He signed the contract and he was quiet for 9 months. Just 2 days ago, he dropped his first single.
Yeah. You like that single?
I think it's gonna catch fire.
Really?
It's not as for me. It's not as big as Skelewu. It's not as big as the other singles that he dropped before he was signed. But I think with the support that he has right now, in terms of where he's signed and the kind of influence that they have, they're gonna make it big. However, I think Wizkid is gonna pull the rug, man. It's gonna pull the rug under everybody's feet, man. That boy has been. I mean that Mamacita song that he did with Tiny Temper, with Tiny Temper, man, he's fire there, he's beastly, you know, and the fact that he leans more to the ragga, onto the raggas in the dancehall scene, and the dancehall scene you can sell it anywhere in the world, you know, it doesn't have to. You can't just sell it to the continent. He can sell it to New Yorkers. He can sell it to, you know, the people in the Caribbean islands. He can sell it to the Nigerians. He can sell it to South Africans. He can sell it to the Europeans. Anywhere, man, anywhere in the world. I think. Give him a year. I think in a year, Wizkid will really be a global superstar.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I was at the Wizkid show on Saturday actually, and I'd been here. It was last year November. There was the One Africa Fest, and they brought down a whole crew of artists. They brought down Davido. They brought down Wizkid, Diamond Platinums as well, if I'm not mistaken. And there, I don't know what went wrong, but the marketing just seemed to be off. Like the crowds went there, and even when he was performing, the response wasn't the same.
Was it this year or last year?
This was last year November.
All right.
This past Saturday, like everyone, kids are going crazy for Wizkid, word for word, just vibing with him. So I definitely feel, especially South Africa, because South Africa is a very hard market for people that aren't South African to break into.
Yeah.
And the way Wizkid has done it, breaking into South Africa, breaking into America, breaking into the Caribbean, breaking into Europe, it's been a masterclass.
But also got to understand why South Africa is such a hard market to crack. It's very political, you know, because as a country we've been shut out of the world, man. You know, let alone the continent, but we've been shut out of the world for so long, you know. Actually, let me correct myself. We've been shut out of the continent.
Yeah, I was going to say because Americans are thriving.
Because we've always known, you know, American music. Our old school jazz scene was built on big band American jazz music, you know. So we would get a lot of European and American jazz, but we were shut out of the continent, you know, like out of the music of the continent and whatever. But it's very funny. That having said that, you still had your Mama Miri Makebas, the Von Chaka Chakas, you know, who went to exile, and because now they were out of the country, they managed to have their music penetrate the continent. And also, you find the political exiles, you know, who left South Africa, went to Tanzania, went to Mozambique, went to Zimbabwe, went to, you know, Kenya, wherever. They took the music there, and that's why even to this day when Yvonne Chaka Chaka goes to those countries, she's big. It's not big here though, you know. And it's as if like South Africans are brainwashed, because now we have always been fed the idea that South Africa is not part of Africa. I don't know if you relate to that, because like with me as a South African, when somebody talks about somebody from Zimbabwe or somebody from Kenya, they're going to say that guy from Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're not going to consider yourself as South African. It's only now that you know, a lot of the inroads are being made, and you know, like the veil is been removed, you know, from our eyes, and now we see that, oh snap, actually the continent is such a huge scene musically. You know, it's so big, it's so massive, and that's why like right now you have your Flavors, you have your Wizkid, you have the Davidos, you know, and they're doing big things in the country. You know, they come and hold their own shows here.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we'll get it right, man. You know, we're getting there. We'll get it right. You know, as a country.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, because I often call South Africa the America of Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's definitely changing. I think a lot of things have started playing a part, especially traditional media. What's going on with what MTV Base is doing, with what Channel O and them are doing, what Trace Africa's doing. It's providing that pipeline, and the consumers are now be able to see, like, wait, there's more artists outside of South Africa.
Man, there's nights and nights.
Yeah,
every single week in South Africa. You go to a club and it's like 2 nights in a week are just dedicated to African music, not just Nigerian, but African music, and clubs are packed.
Yeah.
You know, the kids are loving the country. That's why the kids are singing to Oje Legba. You know, which kids Oje Legba. You know, I can't speak the language, but the kids are singing it. They might not know what exactly it's saying, but they've memorized it. You know, same thing as when Davido dropped Skelewu. The kids were singing it. South African kids were singing it. You know, but we don't know the language. You know, I think Flavor for me was like the worst when Noah Baby came.
Yeah.
You know, when he dropped Noah Baby, that song was massive. You know, and then if you go to Zim, you know, Oliver Mtukudzi, a lot of us don't understand the language. You know, but we sing along, you know, to everything. And now it's only now that we're starting to, you know, get to hear about the urban Zim scene, you know, which we haven't been exposed to, you know, for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're making inroads, man. I think we're all making inroads, bro.
That's the whole thing, man. You know, Africa unite and so forth.
Look, bro, American artists, they are able to sell 10 million copies because they sell to a continent.
Yeah.
It's funny that even to this day, we think of the U.S. as a country. Whereas a U.S. is made up of states.
Exactly.
States are an equivalent of a country. A state is an equivalent of a country.
Yeah. And
if
over there, the governors are basically presidents.
Exactly. You know, so when they sell their music, they sell to a continent. And I think it's high time even right now, man, for that distribution line, man, to be open, you know, for us to be able to sell to the continent. You know, hence initiatives that are done by your MTV Base, your Channel O Africa. I heard that Channel O is no longer broadcast in some countries. I'm not sure about that, but I know that MTV Base.
What they did with Channel O was they used to have one stream for the whole continent, and then they split it to 2. So they had east and west, and then south. Now what they've done is due to some issues, they've now said that, okay, let's go back to one stream.
But are they still broadcasting to the entire continent?
They've merged, in some areas, they've merged Channel O with what's it called? Mnet Music.
Oh, yeah.
Or the equivalent of Mzansi Music, yeah. So in some countries, they no longer get Channel O, they get that. But they're still trying to do the same thing. So it's a little confusing with what they're trying to do.
But then it makes perfect sense then why like Trace Africa is pushing so much to penetrate the continent.
Because there was a gap in the market now.
I mean, my house is forever on Trace Africa. I can tell you that now. I mean, I've been hungry for a channel that's just going to play 100% African music, you know? And I'm discovering a lot of African artists that I never knew, man. You know, I'm discovering so many dope songs, man, that I never knew, you know? Maybe because I'm just a musician, and maybe it's the musician in me, but I'm a sucker for African music, man.
Okay. All right. We've deviated. Let's get back on course. Let me pull out my questions.
So good, man.
So yes, you're at home. You want to become a musician. Dad is saying you must be crazy.
Yep.
Mom is supporting you. Dad says if you want to do this, you're doing it on your own time.
Yeah.
So you end up going to, let me get this name right, Okrim.
Yeah, School of Music.
So how are you funding this? Because that's in Pretoria, correct?
That's in Pretoria, yeah.
How do you get to Pretoria? How do you pay the school fees if Dad is like, I'm not funding
Yo, bruh. So I finished matric, right? Then I was like, okay, Pops, I finished matric, passed with flying colors. But now we had this company knocking at the door, and they were like, we want to give this boy a bursary to go study chemical engineering. And I turned the bursary down. I was like, I'm not going to get stuck in an office doing something I don't like. And my dad was like, okay, cool. If you want to do this music thing, that you're gonna have to fund yourself. That's when I decided to volunteer in a studio back home, because I just needed to learn, man. I needed to take my mind off, the stress of not being able to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And spent 4 years volunteering in the studio. After the 4 years, I think it was the last year before I left Embalenhe to come to Pretoria. I hustled the bursary from everybody. I went to the Department of Arts and Culture back home, the province. I went to National Arts Council. I left home. My mom had just passed away, actually, when I left home. My mom had passed away like 3 days before I left home.
Oh, wow.
Before I was supposed to leave home. Okay. So the 3rd of January 2004. Stayed for the funeral, and then after that I left, And I left because my mom kept beating in my head that, what, if you are really serious about this thing, find a way to do it. We might not be able to find you because your dad doesn't want to find you, but find a way to go,
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, man, I had $150 in my pocket, believe it or not. And I had a pair of brown shoes, which I still keep as a memory. I had this red track pants. I had this very tight top, that I bought from Mr. Price, and a huge, big-ass maroon bag. Put on my clothes, and I just didn't care, man. I didn't care if I was going to sleep on the street or I'm going to starve or whatever, as long as I'm studying what I want to study.
Mm-hmm.
I got to school, and they were like, this is not enough, so I left my bags there, and I took that 150 and I went back home. I hustled for more money. I got like $750. I needed $500 to register. I went back to the school and I registered. And for a good 3 months, I didn't have money to pay for school. I just kept on postponing,
Mm-hmm.
But I had already sent out applications for a bursary.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when I was called into the office, I think it was like April, and the school was ready to kick me out. And lo and behold, man, God's miracles, this guy pitched like, yo, I'm from the National Arts Council. He was from the Mpumalanga Arts and Culture Department.
Mm-hmm.
And your bursary has been approved. It's like, sign here. The guy was in a hurry, bro. I was like, yo, just sign. Don't read, just sign and leave your copy. I signed, and then he left. When I read, it's like, it's a bursary. And then I already called the school. That's why the HOD was calling me to the office to tell me that, listen, these people are giving you a bursary. So my tuition was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
But now my rent isn't taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And like the normal day-to-day things like food, and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be one of those guys, man, who I would get to the school at 7 in the morning and leave the school at 7 in the evening. So I'd always be the first one in and the last one out. I guess it's the passion, and so my tuition was paid for. And then before I knew it, because I had also applied for bursary at the National Arts Council.
Mm-hmm.
That bursary was also approved. So I had two bursaries,
Mm-hmm.
one paying for tuition,
Mm-hmm.
one paying for books, and just paying for books and a bit of the accommodation. So I was sorted, man. That's how I ended up funding myself, and I had a bursary until I finished my 4th year. Passed with flying colors, and I've been working in the music industry ever since.
Okay. Wait. So how are you feeding yourself, though?
Feeding myself, I was doing the odd pub gigs, man. Because I was in a music school, so it was easy to get a band together.
Oh, okay.
So I got a drummer friend of mine, I got a bassist friend of mine, I got a pianist guy, and we just went around the clubs, around the pubs in Pretoria, around the jazz pubs in Pretoria,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd sell ourselves, man. We'd be like, yo, anything, give us a plate of food, or $500 or whatever, and we would just do those gigs, bro. We would just do pubs every weekend,
Wow.
every Saturday and Sunday, and that's how I managed to feed myself.
So did you do this for the entirety of your time at school?
I did it for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit second year, I got a job in a musical theatre production.
Okay.
This is I was doing my second year at school, and that's when I got into musical theatre. And look, man, I got into musical theatre because I didn't have enough money to pay rent, you know. And there were these auditions. I just heard musical in the theatre, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. So this theatre thing has got music in it, so it means I can do it, you know. So I went there, Brian. I auditioned. Nervous as hell, man, you know, and I got it. You know, and that's when I started getting paid.
So what is this position in the musical theatre?
So the musical theatre production was doing auditions for a show that they were putting together. So they wanted like singers and actors and dancers.
Okay.
All right. So I think they wanted a cast of about six people, 3 guys and 3 girls. And I auditioned and I landed a role as one of the 3 guys in the show, one of the 3 lead vocals in the show.
Okay.
You know, and that's actually how I started musical theatre, you know. And I mean, up to this day, I'm still doing musical theatre. I'm still doing musical theatre productions, you know. So that's how it all started, man.
Okay, wait. I just need to get this in context. So you've never did you up until this point have you done any acting before?
Up until that point, no, I hadn't done acting.
Never acted in your life.
Never.
But you had been doing singing.
Yes.
So you go to this audition blind, basically.
Yeah.
They throw you in the deep end, and somehow, some way, you get the lead role.
That's what happens when you're desperate, Brian. When you're desperate, you can become anything. When you're desperate, you'll be the greatest actor. When you're desperate, you'll be the greatest singer. You know, I don't know, bro. I just think when you're really desperate, you'll do anything and everything to get what you want, you know?
Yeah. Okay, well, it's still impressive.
You know, and I've been doing musical theatre ever since, man. I've done a whole lot of big musical theatre productions in the country, you know, up until this far.
Okay, why don't you give us the list? What have you done?
Okay, my first big one was a show called Soweto Story, followed by Rent the musical, which was a Broadway musical.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, they brought it to South Africa. We did that. We're actually doing a 10-year anniversary next year. A concert version of it with some of the Broadway cast. They're coming over. I did the Full Monty.
Oh, were you dancing?
I was a stripper. And trust me, when I say stripper, I stripped. I stripped to my suit. Trust.
Wait, whoa, what? This is allowed.
Look, bro, Full Monty. That's the show explained itself. You know,
I thought like you guys would strip down to speedos or something.
Well, at the last scene of the show, we take off the speedos.
And okay, which way are you facing? Are you facing the audience? Or are you facing
the audience?
Wow.
And the lights come off.
Yeah.
The lights go dark in like 2 seconds after you take off the speedo.
Yeah, that's not something you can invite your dad. You know, want to come to one of my plays.
But then in Cape Town, actually, with that musical, when we were opening in Cape Town, the lights were on for like 5 seconds, bro.
Hey, well, it's
5 seconds is long. Trust me. When you're naked on stage, 5 seconds is long.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi,
Exactly.
3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi.
you get the point. You know, but it's just fun because it's like it was a comedy musical, you know. So, man, we laughed about it. It was okay. It was cool. You know,
but in such a situation, you better hope there's no aircon in the theater because you know you don't want it to be too cold.
Yo, man. Look, all I'm saying is thank God I'm black, man. That's all I'm saying. I don't care about the aircon. All I'm saying is thank God I'm black. Praise Jesus for that.
This conversation is taking a turn.
I did Full Monty. I did a tour of a show called Under African Skies, which we did a European tour. We did France, we did Holland, we did Germany, we did Belgium, and I did a show called Sister Act the Musical.
Oh, okay.
Which is last year. And I'm doing a very big one next year, The Color Purple.
Wow, woo. What character are you playing?
Also a Broadway musical. I'm playing a character called why am I forgetting characters now? Okay, I'm the lead actress's husband.
Oh, till you do right by me.
You know,
yeah. And that would be, I'm forgetting his name too. Damn it! But that's the
actually I'm not
that's
supposed
Danny
to forget
Glover.
the name because I'm
pretty sure that's the character played by Danny Glover in the movie.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's the character. So I'm playing that character.
Yeah, it'll come back to me, man.
You know, so I fluctuate between music and theater because obviously I can't dedicate 100% of my time to musical theater, you know, because I've got a music career as well that's going on and which needs to be serviced. You know, and sometimes I can't do both, you know, 100% at the same time, you know, and like the music takes a big chunk of the time. But I feel like musical theater, man, just keeps me on my feet. You know, it makes me not to slip into that lazy mode, you know, that a lot of musicians fall into.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, gun to your head, and I say you can only choose one career going forward.
Yeah.
Is it musical theater or is it straight music? Music. Okay. So let's delve into that. So you're studying.
Yeah.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, Christos and Black Coffee come knocking some way, somehow.
Yeah. So what happened was, it's very funny because, yeah, man, we come very far with Black Coffee. You know, when I arrived in Pretoria, they were also arriving. So they being Black Coffee, Demo, and Shoda, they used to have a group called Shana together. And it happened that Shoda was my vocal teacher at school. And Shoda and Black Coffee was there from the same crew. They're all living in the same flat. And I got very close with Shoda. Became very good buddies. Was still my teacher though, you know. And, you know, after school I'd always go to his house because he had a studio. So I'd always go to his house just to sharpen my production skills and would write together, you know, we'd do some stuff together and Black Coffee would be there, you know. And probably was starving, man, you know. We'd be gathering change, man, to buy bread. You know, that's how rough things were, man. We'd be gathering change to just buy a little grocery that's just going to keep us going, you know. And Black Coffee got an opportunity to work with Christos. Because Christos and Vinny Da Vinci were a crew called DJs at Work.
Yeah.
And DJs at Work 4 is what they were working on. And they had heard Black Coffee's production and they were like, yo, pitch a song. But we did a song with a vocalist. So, I mean, I was always with the guys. And me and Black Coffee did the song together. And he pitched it to Christos and Vinny Da Vinci. And they loved it, you know. And the song ended up on the DJs at Work 4 compilation. This was 2004, late 2004, going to 2005. And that was sort of like a break for both of us. You know, this was before he got into the Red Bull Music Academy, which then started exposing him to the international market. And because of that, he got exposed to Oskido. Then Oskido signed him, you know, got into Kalawa, did, you know, then releases 2 albums under them, you know, and then branched out obviously on his own, you know. So, and it's a very small industry, hey?
Yeah.
Very small industry, man, you know, because, I mean, me and Christos and Vinny and Black Coffee, Shota, Demo, you know, we still pretty much together. We still pretty much bump to each other all the time, man. You know. So yeah, man. That's how I got into that scene.
Okay. And after that single drops, like, do the calls start coming in?
Not yet, because you got to understand at that time house music, especially SA, South African produced house music was not as big. I would argue and say we were the pioneers of locally produced house music. Because what used to happen back then was our DJs would license songs from American producers. So they licensed songs from your Louis Vegas, licensed songs from your Josh Milans, your Kenny Dopes, you know, your Manus, you know, all the guys that are from overseas, your Oswin Lades. They would license songs, put them in compilations, and then it would be a DJ Christos compilation, but all the songs are songs from outside South Africa. Okay. And then we came up with the idea, we're like, but I mean, if this guy's produced that kind of music and we've got the equipment to produce the kind of music as well, why can't we do the same? And we took a gamble. Oskido, Christos, and who else? Don Laga was very much heavy on the. Oh, Don Laga and Bruce Sebitlo, they were very heavy on the production as well.
Okay.
And we started producing, man, and we started performing, live. But because that wasn't such a big scene, it was a very underground scene, So we'd always go to all these small clubs, all these very underground, deep house centered clubs, and we would gig there. So the calls that we would get wouldn't be calls for festivals, wouldn't be calls for big massive gigs, but we were always present, man, on the ground in the townships and the small clubs, So those are the kind of calls that we were getting.
Okay. Well, I've always been interested with the dynamics of house. So, as you just described, you've got in the beginning stages, you've got the big DJs were essentially curators. So
Yes.
they were compiling the mixtapes.
They were compiling the mixtapes, yes.
So when they start producing their own quote-unquote works, are they producing the stuff themselves, or are they getting someone else to produce for them and then they put their name on it?
So back then, a lot of the guys were producing themselves. So you had Christos. I mean, at that time, Christos was probably the biggest house music producer, followed by Bruce for Kalawa, Bruce and Oskiro. And then as time went by, I started having DJs who can't produce, but they would work with a producer. They'd make a deal with them, and it's like they would license the song from the producer so that it comes across as their song. And obviously, because the man on the ground doesn't really care whether you produce a song or not, they just want the song. So if the song has got your name, if it's DJ Phil, even if DJ Phil didn't produce the song, but people are gonna know the song is DJ Phil's song, But everybody gets paid, though. Everybody who worked on the song will get paid what is due to them. But just to answer that specific question, back then the DJs were the producers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the dynamic with the vocalist is also very interesting, because as a vocalist, you can get your royalties as a session performer in the studio, but then there's also, do you get a lot of bookings with the DJ, or you'd get bookings individually, and then during your set you'd run down all the songs you'd been part of?
Back then, first you got to understand house music vocalists. I hate the term because it just boxes you. But for context, house music vocalists were not a norm. So what would happen is Black Coffee would be booked, and when Black Coffee is booked, he would call me to come with him. So whenever he charges, he would charge a little bit more so that he would share some of the money with me. But it was very rare to find a house music vocalist getting an individual booking. It was always a case of, you're the vocalist that worked with this DJ, so whenever this DJ performs, or whenever he can afford to bring you along, then you go with him.
Okay. So at what point, in fact, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you're now in the underground house culture.
Yeah.
You're doing work with who would become essentially the seminal names in house, because Vinny Da Vinci, Christos, Black Coffee, those are the premier names in house today. At which point does your name, or do you see your brand starting to take off?
At the point when I always credit Black Coffee, for that. I always credit Black Coffee for being the guy that introduced me to the idea of wanting to be an artist in the house music scene, right? Because what Black Coffee would do, because he's a graduate, we're both graduates, and he's not just a DJ who's just going to play somebody's songs. He wants to produce his own songs, and if it's a famous song that he wants to play, he wants to make his own remix of that song. So the set is an entire Black Coffee set in a way. And he we started bringing a band, not necessarily a band per se, but it would be Black Coffee, to be myself, to be a guy on keys and maybe a guy on percussions. And we did an album called Homebrewed, multi-platinum selling album, multi-award winning album, all over the continent. And then we did Africa Rising, the live DVD. It was at that point when we did Africa Rising live DVD that I stuck out in the industry as an individual vocalist, as an individual artist, and from that point on, man, I've just been working it, and to get the brand to be as big as possible.
Okay. So you do the Africa Rising DVD.
Yeah.
When do you start saying, okay, I need to start working on my stuff? And in fact, I think we've even jumped before, because I think even before that you were working with Lebo Mathosa.
Yeah.
How did you?
God.
How did you start linking up with Lebo?
Man, so remember, me and Black Coffee did a song, right, for Christos. This was 2004, and I think Lebo was recording her album or a song with Shana, and Christos happened to play the song that me and Black Coffee did. And then she asked, "Who's the guy who's singing there?" Christos was like, "No, that's Thokozani." Because I mean, that's before I call my name Zano. It's like, "No, that's Thokozani." It's like, "Where's this guy from?" It's like, "No, he lives in Pretoria. He's studying. He's Ngobi's student. He's Shota student." And man, I remember this day very well. It's not a proud thing for me, but it was like a Wednesday afternoon, and I got a call, man. And then this lady's like, "Hi, Thokozani, how are you?" I'm like, I'm good. Who am I talking to? She's like, "You're talking to Lebo Mathosa." Like,
funny guys.
Prank call. Drop the phone. And I called with my life. 30 seconds later, a call comes in, same number. So when I answer, I'm like, "Listen, this is a bad day for you to play a prank on me. So just say what everyone else is." Like, "No, listen, don't drop the phone. I had a song you did with Black Coffee from Christos' studio, and I want to work with you." I was like, "Oh my God." Did I just drop the phone on the legendary Lebo Mathosa? And we had a meeting, and she was looking for a backing vocalist. So I started working for her as a backing vocalist.
While you're still in school, though?
Yes.
Okay.
So second year at school. So the same year when I started doing musical theatre. And I worked with her for like a good 4 years.
Okay.
Started as a backing vocalist, and then she found out that I write songs. So the last album that she did before she passed away, I worked heavy on that album. Started writing for her on that album, and started directing vocals for her for the tours whenever we would go and perform. So I'd be in charge of the rehearsals. I'd be in charge of just arranging vocals for the live performances and for her studio sessions as well. So working with her, man, was very good training ground. Was the perfect trainer, and she was a perfectionist, man.
Yeah.
Perfectionist of note. Like I'm yet to see an artist in South Africa, specifically South Africa, who matches her level of excellence. Because whenever she would come on stage, man, she'd be booked for a festival, but it would feel like everybody else was her supporting act and she's the main act. And whoever is going to come after her, it's game over. Because she's the first person that I saw who traveled with her own sound engineer. The first artist that I saw who traveled with her own professional dancers. And when I say professional dancers, I don't mean dancers that just got from an audition in the township or whatever. Guys that trained, guys that are qualified dancers. She's the first artist that I know who traveled with her own costume. So if it's a 45-minute set, she's going to have 3 costume changes in that 45-minute set. It's going to feel like a flipping extravaganza, man. It's going to feel like a flipping Beyonce show, And she was the first artist that I knew at the time who traveled with an international quality band. You know, and her music, man. I don't know if you know Alexis Faku. He's a musician. Alexis Faku used to be part of a group, man, back in the day. I just forgot the name of the group, but well, yeah, Alexis Faku was the musical director, and you know what that guy used to do, man, for the band and how it would sound on stage, it was incredible. You know, it's funny that an act before her would sound, you know, the sound wouldn't be nice. Well, there wouldn't even be a band; it would just be a backtrack, and a person sings the top of the backtrack. As soon as Lebo Mathosa comes on, man, it's like everybody else was being sabotaged for this moment, because now the sound changes, everything changes, because she travels with the own sound engineer, and her own band and her own dancers, you know, and everything feels like it's a proper show, man. You know.
So working under those conditions, you're obviously impressionable. At this point, how old are you? Like 20, 21?
At this point, I'm 25.
25?
Yeah.
Wow. So, first of all, what type of impression is this making? And are you now making decent money?
What kind of impression did Lebo Mathosa have on me?
Just working through the industry. So, Lebo's teaching you about how to approach your career professionally.
Yeah.
There's that. But you're also being exposed to all these individuals.
Yeah.
How is that assisting you in your career?
Right now?
Back then?
Look, man, back then, all I wanted to do was to sing, you know, and even if I was getting paid peanuts, I didn't care. I was following my dream, you know. I didn't think too much about the money. I didn't think too much about being rich, about getting mine, you know. At this point, I was being taught musicality. At this point, I was being taught how to be excellent as a performer. At this point, I was being taught how to relate to your fans as a family and not just as fans, you know. You can't go there and be a diva, you know. Lebo Mathosa was like a mini Brenda Fassie, you know. Brenda Fassie would rock up, man, in the middle of Soweto, you know, in the middle of Soweto in the street, and just go and buy chips at a corner store and chill with people. Lebo Mathosa was exactly like that. There were no bodyguards around her, you know. She treated people like family, not fans, you know. And yes, we were earning, and we were earning decent, you know. But the focus was not really on the money, man, for me, you know. Also because I felt like I was receiving so much training for the future, you know. So yeah, I was getting decent money. I was getting paid well because I was having two jobs. I was a big vocalist for Lebo Mathosa, and I was in the musical theatre productions, you know. So I was getting paid well, man. I was good.
All right. I think you're glossing over this achievement, but we'll come back to it. But there's a lot to be said for someone who comes from a small town, leaves with 150 rand in their pocket, somehow finds another 700 rand, gets 2 bursaries, finds a way to feed themselves, and then in the space of a year, you go from that to essentially working with South Africa's biggest pop star at the time.
Yeah. It's work, man. I take it as work. I think it's because I take it as work. Like for me, man, I don't believe in this whole fame thing. You know, like it's okay if there's people who doing this for the fame. You know, it's we all in it for different reasons. You know, I believe for me it's part of my purpose. My purpose is part of my calling, and it's work, man. It's my 9 to 5, bro. That's why I don't sleep much.
All right. How many people are there in your family? Like, do you have brothers and sisters?
I've got brothers and sisters. We are 5 now. We used to be 6 boys. But we 5 boys now. I'm the 4th one in the family.
Condolences, man.
Yeah, I know, it's cool, man. It's life. You know, I'm the 4th one in the family, and I'm the only musician in the family.
So at what point are you calling home like, hey, guys, listen. Guess who I'm working with right now, guys?
I never call, man, because remember, me and my dad are not speaking terms.
So like even you're talking to your brothers as well? Like, was it the beef that big?
Yeah, bro. You know, it was. Look, you gotta understand. I was an A student, right? So, and coming from a black home, when you're an A student, everybody now puts their hopes on you as the breadwinner. You know, like you know what, you're the one who's gonna take us out of this. You know, you're the golden cow. So take this bursary, go study, then come back and work and feed us all, you know.
Black tax is real, huh?
Black tax, bro, you know. And I was like, I'm not about that life, you know. I'm gonna work, And as soon as I get to the point where I can take care of my dad, and just to give him a good life, then I'd do that, despite whatever it is whatever differences we had. Actually, me and my dad spent, I think it was like 4 years not talking to each other. We only talked to each other after I graduated.
Wow. Okay. So what's your guys' relationship like now?
No, it's good. It's perfect, man.
It's good?
No, right now we're close, man. We're very close. He's my pops. I take care of him. He's older now, but he doesn't want to stop working. That's another thing that I took from him. He's a workaholic. I'm a workaholic. He doesn't believe in just chilling and just sitting and watching TV, or eating whatever it is that I bought in the house or whatever. He's still going to wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, do his prayers, go and take a bath, and then find something to do.
Okay.
All
right. Okay.
So we're good now. I mean, we're perfect now.
That's dope. All right. So let's get sad. Let's discuss the tragedy. What is it like? Or can you take us through the process when you heard that Lebo had passed away?
I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it actually. And I was telling someone, Lebo's partner at that time, and this is like 2 years after she passed on, and we happened to meet, and I said to her, I didn't believe that Lebo passed away, because for me she was like a god, man. She was invincible in a way, and I didn't even go to the funeral. That's how deep I felt about not wanting to see her in a casket. I don't want that to be the last memory in my head. I didn't want that to be the last memory in my head. And it was very tragic because it was very sudden. It wasn't like she was sick, and she was sick for a long time and then passed on. I think that would have lessened the blow, to a lot of us. It was a car accident. And she passed away. The driver didn't, and it was very tragic, man. And with regards to how it happened as well, because like a day before we were talking, just the day before, you're talking to her like, no, you're cool. Yo, I'm coming to visit you. I need to come see you. I need advice. Wada, I'm studying out this music thing and I need advice and everything. And then the next thing you know, you just see a headline, that she's passed on, and it's like, but how? I mean, just yesterday we were talking. I was supposed to actually go meet this person today. We were supposed to have lunch today at a place, but it's testimony, man, that long life is not guaranteed. Anything can happen.
Yeah, man.
Anything can happen, dog.
I remember, like, even in Zim, when that news broke, we were like, what? Because Lebo had transcended just being South African because she had become a continental star.
Exactly.
So it was a shock to everyone.
Yeah. I always say, like the one person that I can compare to what Lebo did would probably be, if it was like present day, Tiwa Savage. There's so much of Lebo that I see in her. I've had the privilege of seeing a live show, a Tiwa Savage live show, and it was quite impressive. It was quite nice, But man, like I'm just talking just to how much of an icon, that Lebo was, and the fact that obviously she transcended, just outside of being a South African artist to being, an African superstar, and I can only imagine if she lived an extra 5 years, just how big she would have been.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll never know, though.
Yeah, man. Wow. But okay, so when she passes, you just finished graduating.
When she passed, I graduated.
You graduated?
I just graduated, actually.
So yeah, now take us on that journey. Zano is now starting his solo career.
Yeah.
How do you go about it?
Yo, man. First thing that I realized was that what I learned at school and what is happening on the streets, two totally different things. I remember that very well. I just remember thinking to myself, but what the hell was I studying? Okay, cool. The technical things, the technical aspect of singing and playing keys and composing and whatever, it's cool. But in terms of the music business, and this just goes for our continent, we do business very differently, man. A lot of things are very verbal. A lot of things are not done by the book. And that's why, like, you find a lot of great hit makers dying poor because people don't own the intellectual property.
Yeah, but there's some white guy at the top that's got
There's
everything.
there's always white guys. There's always guys in suits and ties chowing and living large off black writers, black composers, intellectual property.
Yeah.
We sell that away. That was the first thing that I saw when I graduated. And that's why I remember me and Coffee did a song 2008 called Hello. This was immediately after I graduated. We dropped a single. He produced it, and it did amazingly well. It was a proper commercial hit. It probably was the first South African house music commercial hit. And just picked up by SABC1 for the summer campaign. It did amazingly well. And but I was not happy, man, because I was like, I don't want to be anybody's slave, man. I don't want to be so desperate that I go sell my soul now, go sell my intellectual property, go sell my everything just so that I can get the fame and the temporary money, And 2010, I took a decision to not to quit, but to just take a break from the music industry. And one of the good things that I really appreciate about studying is the fact that it opened my mind and my eyes to the different things that one can do with regards to entertainment, specifically music. Because while I was studying, I got myself around musicians, around big musicians. So I learned that side. When I graduated, I started learning about corporates, corporate entertainment. So being a corporate singer, knowing companies that do corporate events. I started learning about the relationship between the advertising industry and music when it comes to jingles. Because if I want to sell all brand to you, or if I want to sell milk, or if I want to sell a cappuccino brand, and I'm going to need some music, to be done for a radio ad, or some music to be done that's going to go with a TV ad. So when I took a break from the music industry, I took a 4-year break from the music industry. I got into the advertising industry to do jingles, composing jingles, doing voiceovers, doing musical theatre, very, very, very heavy, doing corporate events as a singer, as a music director. And while I took that break, as much as I did all this work, I took the break because I needed to learn the street way of music business. So I can bring the both together. I can bring the academic and the street together. Otherwise, man, I'm going to be a 50-year-old guy one day. The next thing I'm sick. And then now you guys have been called to come and do fundraising for my coffin. And I'm not about that life, man. So there's a lot of things that I saw when I graduated that were not appealing to me and that I didn't foresee while studying, but I'm glad that I got to see those things quite early.
Okay. So, take your break.
Yeah.
In fact, wait, before that, like, what notable jingles did you do that our listeners might recognize?
Okay, so I'm not sure of like what plays in Zim, but one of the biggest accounts was with Albany Bread, which funny thing is that advert is still being used right now.
So still getting those checks
early.
Oh yeah.
Until I get it right. Sesko. Sesko. Oh.
Okay. I remember it. With Sesko
Enjoy
Sam.
every slice. Sesko. Oh. We did that. Did Albany. I did Mac. Did accounts for Closel in Nigeria.
You're literally making bread.
Yeah, man. You know, but it's I'm quite a I don't want to say intricate person, but yes, I say like for me this is the job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for me intellectual property is my wealth.
Exactly.
You know, and man, it's just sad, man, that, you know, especially guys of my skin color, all they want is the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, to pop bottles, to wear gold chains, you know, to buy Jordans every week, you know, to rent a 50,000 rand house. You know, I don't get the idea of somebody paying 50,000 rand for rent when you can just buy a house and just pay half that for a bond.
Yeah.
You know, but it's funny that, and this is not just a hip hop thing. You know, it's guys in the music industry. You know, because people are not exposed to how you can create lifelong wealth.
Exactly.
With your music, regardless of what country you live in. You know, and I'm quite glad that I got exposed to that, and I choose to live a simple life, man. You know, I choose to live a very simple life. I'm not flashy. I don't want to be. You know, if that destroys my music career, then so be it. You know, but I know how to get bread. You know, I know how to get lifelong bread. You know, and I don't want my kids to be grinding. I'm the one who's grinding. I'm the one who's hustling. You know, my kids have got to live. I want them to live. You know, I want them to be responsible, but I'd rather do the grinding, man. You know, do the grinding, do the hustling for them right now, so that they take over from whatever it is that I built, and they make it into an empire.
Okay, that's dope, man. I think that's what's been sorely missing, especially like what you're saying about the music industry. Even today, I speak to so many young artists, and you'd think that being young and seeing all these examples ahead of them, they'd know better. But it's the same thing over and over and over again.
It's Instagram, man. It's Instagram, y'all.
Yay.
It's Instagram, B. Trust me, you know, because like, I mean, these kids see their idols, you know, flashing $40,000 Rolexes, flashing $100,000 gold chains, you know, flashing the latest R8s, you know, the latest, you know, Ferraris, the latest Mercedes Benz and whatever, and that's the life that they want, you know, and they don't realize that that's actually another level of slavery, man. I believe that.
Yeah,
I totally believe.
You're slave to the debt, yeah.
You always be a slave to the debt, man, you know, because chances are the people that are flashing those gold chains don't own their houses. You know, even if they own their houses, the house still belongs to the bank. Not that they can't pay off the bond, because if you look at what they have, what they accumulate in terms of liabilities, you know, it shows that they actually can have enough money to just pay off that house and own it, you know, or pay off that car that's being flashed off, you know, and own it. You know, we like to claim that we're big on ownership, but the reality is that we're not. We're not big on ownership. We're not. You know, guys, the young cats that are coming up now still want to be signed. You know, they still want to be somebody else's responsibility. They want somebody else to do the work for them. They want somebody else to make them big. They want somebody else to get them the money. You know, but they don't realize that someone else then has the right to own your intellectual property. So as much as you're getting that gig and you're getting paid 40K per gig, or you're getting whatever, because you're irresponsible with your money, you end up chowing all that money, you end up spending all that money, and that someone else that's been investing in you owns your ass for life.
Thank you. I know I've been singing this for quite some time, so it's good that someone who's in the industry can say it too. But yeah,
it is what it is, man.
Hey, before we get too preachy, let's get back. Hey, wow, we've been going at it for an hour.
Nah, it's cool, man.
Man, you've had a career and a half, but let's get back to your career.
Yeah.
So you're doing advertising, you're making bread in advertising. When do you decide, okay, it's time for me to get back into music?
2014. When I registered a new company, Clean Cut Creatives. And with the better knowledge now of the music industry, with the better knowledge of how I can take my brand to another level, with the better knowledge of how I can do it on my own, and with the better knowledge as well of how, when I get to the point where I feel like I want to expand, how I can get the big boys, to partner with me without having to sell my intellectual property. And I was very lucky to link up with a production duo from the UK called the Layabouts. We did a smash. It became the biggest song in 2014, biggest house music song in 2014, called No Lie. And when No Lie became big, that's when I was like, okay, cool, let me work on a body of work. I just put it out there, So No Lie came out 2014. Beginning of 2015, I came out with another song featuring my girl T-Way called Oceans Apart, which, funny enough, I thought it was not going to do well because I felt like it was too musical. But it ended up proving to me that that's actually what people want. People want to listen to music, especially now with the rise of social media and the rise of us as artists being able to communicate directly to the market. It's the market now that dictates what they want to hear.
Yeah.
That's why radio in South Africa is very open now to what's getting played. TV in South Africa right now is very open to what's getting played, because the people are the ones that are telling the TV and the radio what they want to see and what they want to hear. Whereas 10 years back, it was TV and radio that was dictated to the people what is a hit and what is not a hit. So 2014, that's when I came back to the industry. Came out with the body of work last year, and I'm going, man. I'm going at it now, And I'm still the same old guy. I'm still very simple. I'm still very big on the ownership part of my business. I shy very, very, very far away from the flashy lifestyle and the popping bottles, and I'm always locked up in my studio, man. I'm always working, always collaborating, always making sure there's content, that is out there. And right now, we working on getting our content outside of South Africa. Collaborating with some artists from other African countries. So we'll see, man. We'll see where this thing takes us.
Okay. So, how did Colors of My Soul do as an album?
Colors of My Soul did amazingly well as an album. Obviously, for me, it was like my first body of work, and I think I was also like finding myself in terms of putting together an album. But because we had 3 big singles out of it, No Lie, Oceans Apart, and Ketchup, it did amazingly well. People consumed the product. We started getting a lot of work, and I was able to get money to invest back into the business, And right now, took a decision to have a bit of a detour, do a soul and R&B EP, the Embalenhe EP, because I really want to come across as a musician, man, not a house music vocalist or a house music musician, whatever the people want to call it. But with regards to Colors of My Soul, it did amazingly well, man. Did very, very, very well.
Okay. Well, you just touched on it, and that's actually one of the questions I had, because I was listening to the 2 projects.
Yeah.
And Emily, it's 6 tracks, but there's 2 that you could say definitely have a house influence.
Yes.
The rest are very soul,
yes,
very R&B. And it's a passion project for you, as you said.
Yes.
It's dedicated to your mom. So tell us about why you decided to do this project and name it Emily.
I've always wanted to do like a soul and R&B project, and I also wanted my next album to have a very heavy soul and R&B influence, but I also needed something that's going to be like a bridge between the last project, which is the house music project, and the next project, which has house music songs, but will be more of a soul and R&B project. And the Emily EP idea came about. I've always wanted to do something to honor my mother with. My mother was the person who encouraged me to be a musician and to take this thing very seriously. And but over and above that, I looked at my mother's life. My mother was what someone right now would consider a feminist. I've got a big problem though with how a lot of women define feminism right now, but we'll get to that later, but my mom was a free thinker, very stubborn about her decisions, very stubborn about what she wants and how she wants to get it, and she taught me that, and she was victorious in a lot of things. She came across a lot of challenges, and I looked at her life, and I looked at the life that a lot of our women are going through in the continent, not just in South Africa, but in the continent. And I see a lot of her in a lot of women right now. And I wanted to put together a project that's not going to be a bunch of love songs, but that's going to be a body of work that really just celebrates women and celebrates their strides, celebrates the successes, highlights the challenges that they are facing, that they're going through, and also just to say that from a man's perspective, we are with them, man. We're standing with them. There's this whole notion right now that we're all in a fight, which I just don't get. Doesn't make sense to me. When somebody would say, yeah, but I don't need a man to do this or whatever. Yes, you don't need a man to do that and that, but we need each other. Without each other, we would never survive. That's just how nature is. That's how life is. It's a body of work just to say that we are there with them as men. We are standing with them, not against them. And also just us as men, man. We can do better. With our women. So that's what prompted me to do the Emily EP. Funny thing. Yeah, I think this funny thing that I always say, it's such a habitual word. But funny thing is that when we drop the EP, the aim was not to have heavy PR around it, and it's just more of a passion project. Let's put it out there. Let's see how people will consume it. And man, the response has been phenomenal. Actually, the response has been bigger than Colors of My Soul.
Really?
It's way, way bigger. Because you have a lot of stations now that have playlists that the lead single, Don't Bother. But now with Don't Bother being on radio, there's a song on the EP called Changes.
Yeah.
Which I haven't given to any radio station. But when we go through our charts, our sales charts, for the EP and for the individual songs in the EP, Changes is the highest bought song in the entire EP. I totally understand, because it's
got the inspirational.
Yeah.
It crosses over. It's got the gospel, the vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get that. It's just that sometimes I think we get caught up in formulas, because as a record exec, I would think to myself, the song that's on radio is supposed to be the one that's highest selling. The single that's on radio is supposed to be the one that's highest selling if people are just buying singles. But it's the other way around. Don't Bother is the second highest selling single from the EP, but Changes is number one. So now we've even decided to turn the EP into an album. So add 4 more songs, turn it to an album, because that's what people are demanding. Everywhere I go, everywhere we perform, people are like, turn this thing into an album, turn it into a full body of work, into not just an EP. People are hungry for that. And you look at, in terms of content, you look at the SAPC, a new law was passed that said that all SAPC radio stations are going to play 90% African music and 10% international. And you're getting a huge influx of hip-hop, huge influx of house music, because the urban music space is made up of predominantly those two. And now you're getting a huge influx of Afro soul artists that are getting into radio. And there's a starving market, which is soul and R&B. And which is the gap. For me, it's good, because now we sample the music catches fire very quickly, and we're even busy with the music video right now, just to add more fire to how we push the project. So yeah, man, that's the Emily EP, in a nutshell.
Well, I think it's definitely an impressive project. What I found a little weird, but not speaking to you and knowing your background, it kind of made sense, is I preferred live.
You're not the only person to say. Actually, somebody was so mad at me. I was at Kai FM, right? This was last week, Thursday. and I performed Changes. And the person, after I performed Changes, he's one of the producers of the shows. He came into the studio and said, "I'm very mad at you." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "You have no idea how the EP sounds live compared to how it sounds on the CD." Now, like, no, I totally get that. And that's why the next project is completely live. The next project is completely, nothing's going to be programmed except just one or two things. But everything, drums, bass, keys, everything is definitely going to be live. I totally get what you're saying, because you're not the only person saying it. A lot of people have said the same thing to me.
Yeah, it's very weird, but like, I think it's a testament to your background, but the way you present it, the way you mold the songs, like the song seems so much bigger, and so much fuller live. Like, even just give us like a like a live EP nyana, just just for the passion project, because it sounds incredible. Like, it's even like, you're like, I remember this song. This song was so dope live. It's still good now, but it feels so bigger like when you hear it live. So even if you just do like a live version of the album, it'll be. I think it'll be.
I'll tell you one thing. At the office, after we did the launch for the EP, my team at the office were like, I think it would be a good idea for us to, whenever we do projects, that we have a big budget, and every single project that you release from now on, it's a live project. And it makes perfect sense, because a lot of people have said that I sound so different live compared to a recording. But now, can you imagine if for a recording, we do a live performance, where everything is live. I think that would be pretty dope. I think that would be a game changer. I definitely think so.
Definitely, like no one is doing that right now. And as you said, another thing that I noticed is there isn't anyone doing strict R&B, strict neo soul. I don't know if it's because people aren't willing to take that risk, or the market isn't calling for it. But as you just said, the market wants your stuff.
People are scared. I can tell you that now. And I saw this with the EP, because I was a bit scared about how people are going to receive it. But how the general public is consuming the EP is testimony that people are actually hungry. They've been hungry, for this kind of music. They've been looking for this kind of music. They've been looking for soul and R&B artists to support, to buy their music and to go to their live shows, And that's why, like, right now, I think I'm in a very fearless spot, and I'm at a spot where I want to do what I want to do, man, the way that I want to do it, So, to answer your question, man, it's just fear. That's it. The people are comfortable, People are very comfortable. People want to do what's going to give them money, in the quickest time possible, But I think now more than ever, authenticity is the number one thing when it comes to music. Because if you're authentic about whatever it is that you're doing, people feel authenticity. And when people feel authenticity, you can do the weirdest music genre or weirdest music style, but if it comes across as authentic, it will always connect with people. And just going back, that's the power of hip hop. If you look at it, that's the power of. I mean, look at Kendrick. He could have been another trap artist. He could have done trap and sang about girls shaking their booties at the strip club, or somebody twerking or smashing somebody's whoever. He could have done all that, but he wouldn't have been authentic. And he did something that nobody thought anybody would do in this age. And it's working for him. It's working for J. Cole. So authenticity, man. That's all I'm saying. Authenticity right now is number one.
Definitely. Wow. I think this has been an incredible conversation. We're gonna have to have another one a few months down the line.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Because we've skipped over quite a bit for time constraints. But yeah, I mean, you're busy, man. You got a life to get back to.
Yeah, man.
But I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Any parting words to our listeners out there? All three of our listeners.
Yo, man, all three of you, all three of y'all. All three y'all. Put some respect in my name. Anyway, look, man. For me, it's always one thing, man. Just be stubborn about your dreams, bro. You know, just be stubborn about what you want. You know, I know we live in a society where people that have failed at getting what they want think everyone else is going to fail, you know. And I'm not saying that all of us are going to be leaders or all of us are going to, you know, are going to be the greatest or whatever. But what I know for sure is that whenever you have a dream, it is your responsibility to make sure that you realize the dream, you know. If I never followed my dream, I don't know where I'd be right now. Maybe I'd be working in a mine back home. Maybe I'd be, you know, which wouldn't be anything bad. It's just that I wouldn't be fulfilling my purpose, my life purpose, you know. So find your life purpose, man. Find your life purpose and just be stubborn about your dreams. You know, forget what everybody's saying. Forget what people are trying to, or rather how people are trying to discourage you from pursuing what you want to pursue, you know. Just go for what you want, man.
Okay.
Get yours.
You know what I'm saying? Those are wise words right there from MC Exclusive.
Word.
No, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. No,
it's a pleasure.
This was a pleasure. This was actually an excellent interview. One of our best interviews yet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Now I'm going to get me some cake.
All right. We customarily play out with the song after our interview. So which song would you like us to play out with?
Don't Bother, man.
All right.
From the EP. Dedicated to all the Zimplesses.
Yeah. She got her own money.
Yo, but look, very quickly. That song does not speak to husbands and boyfriends. If you got a girl, spend money on your girl, right? If you got a wife, spend money on a girl. Don't take the song and make it an excuse for not spending money on your woman. Spend money on your woman. Otherwise, I know the niggas gonna spend money on her.
Hey.
That's all I gotta say.
Yo. Whoa.
We broke. She's got her own money to spend, so don't bother. 1, 2, 3, let's go. I suppose you're gonna flash your money, your wallet. You're gonna flash your money. I suppose you're gonna buy bottles by the bar, crackers on the bottles. Well, it's a Monday, go ahead now. Calling all the girls to the club, oh, you're the king now. I suppose you wanna hit it deep tonight. Well, I got news for you. She's got her own money to spend, so don't bother. She's got her own bottles to pop, so don't bother. She's got her own money to spend, so don't bother. She's taking herself home. She's got her own right, so don't bother. Keep your hands to your glass, big boy. Oh, respect. Keep your hands to your glass. You don't wanna end up on the street. Black Twitter, drag your name on the street. Well, it's a Monday, go ahead now. Calling all them girls in the club.